From purposely aiming a ball at Rafael Nadal to hurling a chair across the tennis court, these are some of the most controversial things Nick Kyrgios has ever done. Let's begin with the time the athlete had a total meltdown. Yeah, sports can be frustrating, so that sorta doesn't sound all that bad. Except, this one was because the color of his towel was wrong. The staff at the 2019 Rogers Cup were in for it when Kyrgios clashed with Kyle Edmund. Cause of distress, you ask? Nick maintained that he'd been given a white towel instead of a tournament-branded one. It turned into a proper tantrum. Right after, the then 26-year-old issued the ultimatum that he wouldn't be participating in the match until he was presented with a new towel. And he caused quite the scene on the court while waiting for his wish to be granted. He asked the officials why it had taken so long just to get a white towel. Anyway, he seemed pleased he got 2 of them though. When it comes to his behavior in court, Kyrgios is super comfortable on it. Way too comfortable, some might say. After all, he once took a phone call sitting there, right before a mixed doubles match in Melbourne back in 2016. Kyrgios was sitting with Ala Tomljanovic, his partner, when his phone rang. Some might have let it go to voicemail. Some would have left their phones back in the locker room, what with a match coming up and all. But not Nick. He answered it. In this particular case, though, he evaded punishment, but several eyebrows were raised, and questions with regard to the player's commitment and professionalism were brought up. Kyrgios seemed unbothered though. Maybe if people wanted an answer as to why he would do such a thing, maybe they should have called. Anyway, the sanction was avoided since it was pre-match. So, wanna know who it was? What call was so important that it just couldn't be ignored? It was just some of Nick's friends. And it wasn't really an important call at all. Also, on court isn't the only place that Kyrgios has stirred up a bit of controversy though. He was also caught partying before his 2019 Wimbledon exit. The Australian tennis-playing bad boy was spotted at the Dog and Fox pub at around 11 p.m. It was the night before his second-round match with Rafael Nadal. Kyrgios seemed to be hanging out with his friends while chatting up some girls, according to Miguel Seabra, a sports commentator. He also reported that Nick was looking absolutely relaxed. He thought it quite an unorthodox preparation technique for the upcoming match. It kinda came as no surprise when Kyrgios crashed his way out of the tournament. But hey, say what you want about him, but the one thing you can't call him is inconsistent. Because after losing, he went right back to the very same pub to drown his misery. Speaking of consistency, Nick's got it in spades. Just check out what happened during Shanghai Masters in October 2016. In the second round, Kyrgios managed to earn an even larger fine than he did in 2015. Yet again, he was accused of tanking. This time around, it was in the match against Alexander Zverev. Kyrgios got a slap on the wrist worth $32,900. And that wasn't all. Due to the lack of effort that Nick had demonstrated quite superbly, he got an additional fine of $13,127. And he wasn't done yet. He racked up a $6,563 fine for verbally abusing a spectator, and was fined an additional $1,969 for the bad sportsmanship he showed. On top of all of that, Kyrgios was banned from being part of the competition for 8 weeks. Phew, that was quite a list. So can you guess what he did the next year in the same tournament? Yep, he got an even larger fine for his antics. First, halfway through his first-round match with Steve Johnson, Nick retired. Next, the athlete got a point penalty during the tie-break from the chair umpire. So obviously, Kyrgios told the umpire that he'd quit if he didn't win the tie-break. He did lose it. And, being a man of his word, Kyrgios walked out. This led to a $10,000 fine for unsportsmanlike conduct. And his $21,085 prize money for the tournament was also taken away. If you think that's a notable meltdown, then just hold that thought. Well, I talk about Nick's conduct at the 2019 Italian Open. Here is a little bit of context for this one. It happened just a day after Kyrgios gave an interview where he openly admitted that he just couldn't stand Novak Djokovic, whom he also found cringeworthy. Anyway, on the day of, Kyrgios threw a chair right into the court, and he also kicked a bottle in his outburst. Some of his actions also overshadowed some spectacular moments too, like Joe Conta won back-to-back, and Sloane Stephens and Venus Williams reached the quarterfinals. The fine issued was a whopping £17,000 for unsportsmanlike conduct, which came after Nick lost the plot against Casper Ruud. Furthermore, Kyrgios got triggered by the crowd and got involved in an exchange with the officials while playing at the Foro Italico. He was upset for having to forfeit a match to go down 2-1 in the decider. The player angrily threw his racket to the floor and hurled a folded-up chair right onto the playing surface. He then went on to rant in very colorful language at the chair. In the end, he walked off court but defaulted from the match as well. That's a pretty drawn-out meltdown, y'all. But Kyrgios wasn't done with Ruud. He beat Casper at the Indian Wells and dropped the F-bomb. Nick didn't quite get the chance to beat his rival in the Italian Open in 2019, right? Well, he did manage it in March 2022. Ruud was defeated pretty ruthlessly too. It was an awesome moment for Kyrgios. But since his unsportsmanship is legendary, the Australian openly taunted Ruud after his victory. A four-letter word was thrown around, which was later apologized for on Instagram. So apparently, Nick's a sore loser. But is he a magnanimous winner? Also, nope. But maybe some people just get on his nerves. Another example, Fergus Murphy, a chair umpire in 2019 at the Cincinnati Masters. Kyrgios straight up berated the guy by calling him a tool with some bad language thrown in too. He also smashed 2 rackets. The tennis bad boy was fined an astonishing £98,904 for it. The next day, the ATP announced the penalties, and Nick was handed a breakdown of 8 fines ranging from £2,282 to £15,216. The violations included verbal abuse, audible obscenity, and, yep, you guessed it, unsportsmanlike conduct. Well, at least Nick didn't hit the umpire. Rafael Nadal almost got some action from him. Kyrgios admitted that he'd been trying to aim for Nadal during their second match at the 2019 Wimbledon. He even refused to apologize for purposefully thrashing a forehand directly at Rafael during what seemed like a grudge match. Nick later made his intentions really clear. He wanted to hit Nadal right in the chest. Oof. But to be fair, if anyone can take a ball thrown right at him, it's gotta be Nadal. This confession, however, did garner Kyrgios some pretty bad press. Fans called him a spoiled brat, and many shared that he should be banned from tennis altogether. Well, everyone's entitled to their opinions, but in their defense, Kyrgios has got quite a record of misdemeanors. From racking on ever-increasing fines due to lack of temper control, to openly trash-talking opponents. These were some of the most controversial things from Nick Kyrgios.